Whoa! Zark Essay, who could have guessed? Not me. I've never done something like this before. But I like Red Dead 2, and I really like Javier Escuella, so what the hell? Sure. Actually, I don't know if I'm even posting this anywhere. I hope I do. If you're reading this or hearing this, I did. Yay me for finishing a project I barely ever do. Rip the superhero Red Dead 2 you. You could have been great. Basically, it's a Tuesday night at 10 p.m. and I can't sleep. And for some reason, my unemployed and schoolless, is that how you say that? Brain has decided to research BPD, which landed on me thinking about Javier and the maybe popular BPD headcanon. Why? I don't know. Autism, I guess. He lives in my head rent-free. It's time to pay up, man. This will probably end up being a general character analysis. Future me update, it did. Knowing me, so bear with me. I swear I'll get to the BPD part eventually. I like to say real quick that I'm no doctor. I don't have BPD, nor have I personally asked someone with BPD for their experience. I've read papers, I've watched videos, I've looked online. That's all. I'm just one guy, alright? I'm of course going to be wrong about a lot of things, plus people may have different opinions from me. And that's good. Please, if I say something wrong or you simply do not agree with me, do tell. I love hearing other people's opinions on the things that I enjoy, and hell, do I enjoy Red Dead 2. I found out about this headcanon from Seed Sex? That sounds weird. Said, I think is how it's said. I don't know. Them saying that they would do a character analysis for Javier in this headcanon. At the time of me writing this, it's not out yet, which isn't bad, nor am I saying, dude, work on that video. I understand, it's not easy. I'm saying this because they're what sparked this idea in my brain, so shout out. I'm gonna try to be as factual as I can in this, bringing up things said either by Javier or other characters about him. Yes, even Red Dead 1 Angry John. Listen, I personally think he's a very unreliable narrator. I believe he often says things out of anger. Plus, given the strange man saying he has forgotten far more important things...
Do I know you? I hope so. I seem to know you. I'm pretty good at remembering faces. Are you? Do you remember Hattie McCourt's face? Who? She was a girl Dutch Vanderlyn shot in the head on that raid on the ferry a few years back. Same one you got shot on. Pretty girl, until her eye was hanging out by a thread of tendon and her brain was plastered over a wall. Not really. Then why would you remember me, friend? You've forgotten far more important people than me.
Let's just say I do not trust his memory, but it's a character in this story who knew Javier, so sadly I have to hear him out. Of course, as with any piece of media, there will be a lot of opinions and me speculating on Javier and others' thoughts. We do not truly know what Javier or the other gang members are thinking. We kinda know what Arthur and John are because of their journals, but even then, we don't know everything. In general, we're mostly guesstimating when speaking of characters' thoughts and feelings. Again, if you think I'm wrong, please do tell. Also, don't mind these fuck-ass chapter titles. I'm gonna be bouncing around things like crazy. I don't have a train of thought, okay? I have a raccoon, a dog, and a cat in a line, but they keep getting distracted. Chapter 1. Javier's personality. The Javier we met in Red Dead 2 is loyal as hell. Even to the last moments he's defending Dutch and saying phrases such as, Dutch loves us and that love is all that matters.
You know, I've seen a lot of men who say one thing and do the other thing. Who promise you the world while they rob the bread off your plate. Listen, I know Dutch been a little erratic recently. I know what went on in Blackwater, well, none of us is pretending that was something nice. But I guess, the way I see it, we're still here. And he's still right. I mean, look, you're all free to think what you want to think, but for me, I still believe in him. Because, well, he did what he did. But he did it for love. For all of us. Yes, I feel bad. They didn't deserve that, but listen, I just think, and I've been thinking about this a lot, I just think Dutch loves us. And being loved, well, we're gonna be okay. We're gonna make it.
Now, Javier uses the word love in strange ways. Hear me out. He uses it as a distraction, for example, in Red Dead 1 before throwing a box at John to run away from him.
Hello, old friend. It's been a long time.
Hello, brother. It's good to see you. I heard you was coming. You took your time, no? Come on, you're not gonna shoot your own brother, are you? We was family.
Yeah, we were. Then you and Dutch went crazy and family didn't mean so much.
So now you do the government's work.
And what do? You just work for a different government.
Come on, brother. I think we should go our separate ways, huh?
What you and Dutch did was wrong. And the way you left me was wrong. Now, I hate to judge, but as it turns out, it's you or me. The way I see it, might as well be you.
We thought you was dead, brother. I promise. I'm telling the truth. Besides, I can give you a bill. In Dutch. Dutch is in Colombia. I can take you straight to him.
You left me to die?
Whoa.
To save your own skin, and now you expect me to care about
Whoa,
you?
You got it all wrong, brother. I've always loved you. Even now.
He says Dutch did what he did out of love for them. He says he just thinks that Dutch loves them, etc. He seems to be trying to reassure both others and himself about loyalty in Dutch's actions. He doesn't seem to truly believe his own words, but he thinks if he keeps saying it, it'll come true. He has this sense of false confidence in the ways he speaks, pausing and trying to sound sure, while failing. This could be both because of, again, this fake assurance that everything is going to be okay, and because English is not his mother language. He clearly struggles with it, jokingly asking if they make things hard to say to make others feel stupid, for example.
I thought you said it wasn't far.
Too far to walk, though. Yeah, come on. The other day, I rode down to the Lanahatchee River. I caught some beautiful steelhead trout.
You mean the Lanahatchee River?
No. The Lanahatchee. It runs right near here.
Yeah, but it's pronounced Lanahatchee.
Why is everything in English said differently than it's written? Make us feel stupid?
Oh, you're asking the wrong feller.
Love is a strong word. It's an intense affection to something or someone. A word Dutch uses often, along with others, such as calling folks son or brother, to deepen their connection, making it harder for others to separate from Dutch. You wouldn't hurt your own father or brother, would you? Of course not. He saved you, gave you meaning, gave you love and clothing. How could you hurt him? I don't think Javier means to use the word in such a way, as a way to manipulate others. I mean, he seems to be genuinely afraid of people leaving him, afraid people will reject or betray him, especially in chapter 6 when things are already bad. He questions Arthur, and when Arthur doesn't give a good enough answer, according to his own criteria, he immediately says, "Oh, so it's true, you're undermining us all," and starts acting like Arthur is a traitor and he's gonna leave at any second. He sounds scared, upset. He repeats what Dutch once told him. Be strong, be together.
Why are you doing all this stuff behind Dutch's back, Arthur? Why?
It ain't like that.
Oh, so it's true. You're undermining us all, just when it matters the most.
Who said that? Micah? Dutch?
Doesn't matter who said it, it's true. Come on, man. Right now, be strong, be together.
I'm trying.
Try harder.
Listen, these are tough times, of course, but now, this is when we have to be our strongest. We're gonna make it. We are gonna be okay, but please, Javier, I need you strong.
Okay.
Not okay, okay. Yes or no. Strong or weak. Which is it?
Strong.
In a camp interaction, Javier says his friends, the gang, are his home now. His voice trembles. He's hurting. He's scared.
I was stealing chickens and he, I met him doing the same. And we laughed. He took me in. And he fed me. And he clothed me. And I met all of you. I don't believe I shall ever go back home now. For this. This is my home now.
Oh, Arthur.
You.
Hello.
You are all my home now.
He's heard people like Dutch and Micah use the word love so much in a manipulative way that now it means nothing, or rather the meaning has been twisted. For example, when Micah and Javier get drunk and Micah says, "I love you fellers," and Javier pauses and then asks, "Do you?" He doesn't seem sold on the idea and mumbles drunkenly,
You want another drink?
Sure.
You're good hell.
And yours?
You know, you're okay for a greaser.
You know, you're okay. For an asshole. Look at me. Oh, gosh.
Man, you're a real creep, Morgan. You fellas, man. You fellas. I love you fellas. I do.
Do you?
Sure. I mean, you're all dumb and innocent and stuff. It makes my heart warm.
The guy called him a slur like 3 minutes ago, by the way. Yet after that, Javier seems to trust Mike a lot more, even whispering to him while sober in Chapter 6, and he refuses to keep talking while Arthur is around.
Can I, talk to you a minute?
Hey, Morgan.
Arthur, this is a private conversation.
It's a pleasure.
That boy ain't dumb. No, sir. Not dumb at all.
I think part of why Javier talks to Micah is for Dutch, to make Dutch happy, because Dutch tells Arthur multiple times he wishes they got along. So maybe Javier thinks if he's nice to Micah, Dutch will be happy with him. Anyway, I do think he truly does love Arthur and John and other gang members. He aims his pistol at this guy in the final showdown. Okay, listen, at first he kinda aims at them and then at this guy. He's conflicted, uncomfortable. Even as he's actively betraying his brothers, he cannot force himself to aim and potentially hurt them. Sure, he's created conflict, but I truly believe he regrets it. He's under a lot of pressure. His emotions are going wild. He's not stupid. He sees things are going wrong, but unlike John and Arthur, he doesn't experience it firsthand. The two others were left to die by Dutch several times each, meanwhile Javier hasn't. While Arthur saw Dutch killing an old lady and going against his principle, Javier saw Dutch coming to rescue him when he needed it the most, Again, Dutch went out of his way to save Javier. Meanwhile, Arthur was left even when Dutch could have saved him with minimal effort in the factory. I don't imagine he was stalled neither, given Arthur has to go out of his way and ask what's been going on. The gang has a communication issue, especially when it comes to Dutch. It's like they don't want to speak badly about Dutch, even when he could never know. Dutch, whether or not, actively grooms Javier and a lot of other gang members into being loyal to him. He targets people who are alone and hurting. He targets minorities, people of color, or other ethnicities who would otherwise have no place in the world. Fear of communication is trauma-based, by the way. You either feel like your voice doesn't matter, no one's voice but Dutch's matters in the gang. You think expressing how you feel is going to bring negative experiences. Every time Javier talks, Dutch gives a negative reaction. Or you're used to being silenced or invalidated. Again, Dutch. That being said, while Javier trusts Dutch, he also trusts his friends. He respects Arthur and John, he knows they are smart, he knows that they believe in Dutch, so he knows that if they are acting out, there is a reason. The problem is, he doesn't see the reason as justifiable. He's trusting, he tries to see the best in people. He's always trying to get people to understand Dutch and go back to siding with him. He says he knows of people who will say one thing and then do another, and that he knows Dutch has been a little erratic, accepting that what went down in Blackwater was really bad, but he says that at least they're still alive. He's trying to uplift others, convince them and himself that things are going to be okay. With the gang broken, Javier would be back at where he was when he first came to the USA. He would struggle being able to find another gang in the States that would accept him. He wouldn't be able to make a living on his own, and he does not want to go back to Mexico because he knows it would put his family at risk. That was the reason he fled in the first place. He believes in Dutch because he has no other choice, because he has nowhere to go with the gang broken up. Unlike other people, I don't think he's completely blindly trusting Dutch. He does question Dutch, a few times in fact, but he's always put down in quite rude ways by him. Basically calling him an idiot when Javier questions the difference between an outlaw and a criminal, questioning his loyalty and strength. He talks down to Javier. If I were him, I'd also be afraid to question him again. If every time you talk to someone, they always put you down, at some point you learn to just stay down.
So, what now, Dutch?
Now, reading, little sun. We're not home free, but
You think they're off our backs?
for now, long enough for us to figure out what we're doing.
They're gonna let a bunch of criminals go after what we done.
We are not criminals. We are outlaws.
There's a difference?
Of course there is a goddamn difference, and when you figure out what that is, you'll know what the hell we're doing.
Well, feels like we're running, killing, and running some more.
Listen, these are tough times, of course, but now, this is when we have to be our strongest. We're gonna make it. We are gonna be okay, but please, Javier, I need you strong.
Okay.
Not okay, okay. Yes or no. Strong or weak. Which is it?
Strong. Strong.
If you talk to Javier after the strong or weak conversation, Arthur says it's unlike Javier to doubt Dutch, which tells us he's only recently feeling worried about Dutch's actions, or at least that he doesn't say he's worried very often. To which Javier defensively says he's not doubting, that he just wants to know what's going on. Again, in the final stand down, his options are dying man and hurt man versus the guy that saved him and a bunch of other well-off gunmen. It'd be stupid to side with John and Arthur. He's a survivor. He will make it out alive. Even in Red Dead 1, when he's probably at one of the lowest points in his life, he still runs away and fights for his life. Not as much as he once would have, though I'd like to point out. He curses at John, then begs, then goes back to cursing. If you kill Javier, that's that. But if you tie him up, he goes back to the cycle of beg curse beg. He wants to live. I'd say he's a little afraid of dying. Who isn't, though? He's fought so hard to live, betrayed people he loved, and now he dies at John's hands. Maybe it's karma. Maybe he shouldn't have saved John all those years back. I don't think he'd regret it, though. In fact, I'm a firm believer Javier would much rather die at John's hands, a man he used to call a friend, than the law he fought so hard for years to stay away from. After all this I've told you of Javier being loyal, of him being loving, I'll get more into him being a good friend later. You know what John says about him? John says that Javier was a cynic who desperately wanted to be a romantic and a torn man.
I knew I had heard the name Javier Escuella before. He is from this province. They tell me he was once a notorious bounty hunter and also one of the early revolutionaries.
That sounds about right.
All before my rebellious urges took hold, of course. I think I was still traveling in Europe at the time. I was living in Madrid with the ambassador's wife.
That sounds about right as well. Escuella was always a torn man. A cynic who desperately wanted to be a romantic.
Whereas you, John, are a romantic who wants to be a cynic.
Javier would die fighting for what he believed in. He had a lot of passion, but no love. Although he really admired Dutch, of course. But then we all did.
He was the leader of your little group of fortune hunters, ¿verdad?
When Dutch started falling apart, it hit Javier harder than any of them. He went crazy. It was like the one thing he'd ever believed in turned out to be a fraud.
You talk about him fondly.
It ain't exactly fondness. We was close once. But he never cared for me or anybody else. Not any of his so-called brothers. He left me to die when he had the chance to save me.
This is what I meant with John speaking out of anger. John and Javier were friends. John knows Javier deeply cared about him, yet he speaks badly of the man. Speaking of John. Chapter 2. Relationships and Insecurities. Javier and John seem to get along well. From the start, we see Javier agreeing to help John. Does he hesitate? I believe he does, for a second, asking if they have to do it now. But it's not because he wants to leave John behind, it's because it's fucking cold out there. They may die, but he still says, I know if the situations were reversed, he'd look for me.
I need you to... I'm sorry to ask, but...
It's little John. He's got himself caught into a scrape again.
He ain't been seen in two days.
Your John will be fine. I mean, he may be as dumb as rocks and as dull as rusted iron, but that ain't changing because he got caught in some snowstorm.
Please go take a look. Javier?
Yes.
Javier, will you ride out with Arthur to take a look for John? You're the two best fit men we've got.
Now?
We're pretty worried about him.
I know. If the situation were reversed, and he'd look for me. This way. Last I know, John was headed up the river.
For all we know, he kept riding north and never looked back.
He wouldn't leave. Not like that.
Wouldn't be the first time.
Hey, I see some smoke. Come on, let's take a look.
Let's hope it ain't more of O'Driscoll's boys.
Well, seems somebody left. Recently. And that way.
Sure, well, come on then. Damn snow's coming in hard again.
We'll lose these tracks if we don't move fast.
Come on, boy. Horses are getting tired.
Yeah, a lot of fresh snow here.
I don't know about this, Javier. I mean, we can't follow nothing.
Let's push on a little bit. Maybe we'll pick up the trail again.
And constantly pushes for Arthur to keep looking. He leaves behind his worries to look for his friend. It's obvious Javier is very caring of the people he loves, always doing what he can to help. I'd like to mention that on the right there, when Arthur asks what happened, Javier hesitates when he speaks about Dutch. He says Dutch killed a girl in a bad way. Again, talking badly about Dutch is uncomfortable for him.
So, you were there, Javier. What really happened on that boat?
We had the money, it seemed fine. Then suddenly they were everywhere.
Bounty hunters?
No, Pinkertons. It was crazy. Raining bullets. Dutch killed a girl in a bad way. But it was a bad situation.
That ain't like him, though.
Back to it, when they get John, Javier tries to reassure him a few times. Says it's just like a dog bite, that he won't die yet. Again, he's caring, he's reassuring. Also, once they get there and Hosea places his hand on Javier's shoulders, he moves it away. Maybe he's uncomfortable by touch, maybe Josea's hand was too close to his neck, a place Javier seems wary of people being close to. Makes sense, he nearly got his neck sliced in two. I'd also be paranoid.
We get some help! We need some help here!
Come on, help him down.
You're alive! You're alive!
Here we go. There we go.
Ay, careful, idiotas! It's his leg!
Come on, let's get you warm. Thank you both. This is a new low, even by your standards.
Thank you, Arthur. Thank you.
You got any other lost maidens need saving?
Not today.
He also pushes away Sean's hands off his shoulders later on when they rescue him.
You know, you're a lot less ugly from that other angle, Arthur.
Come on.
Do I get a hug, Arthur? A warm embrace for a lost brother now found.
You know, nothing means more to me than this gang, the bond we share. It's the most real thing to me. I would kill for it, I would happily die for it. But in spite of all of that, I would have easily left you here to rot if Charles hadn't stopped me.
I don't believe a word of that, Arthur.
Get him out of here.
You're a great man, Arthur Morgan. The kind of young whippersnapper I can really admire.
Oh, shut up. Right, we should split up. Javier, will you escort Mr. McGuire back to camp? Charles, best you ride separately. Be careful. There's patrols everywhere.
What about you?
I'm gonna see what's worth taking here. I'll meet you back there as soon as I can.
All right. Okay, come on.
Have I got stories for you?
Yeah, I can't wait.
I imagine y'all missed me a lot. But fear not, the joy's back in your lives now.
In the moment where Lenny makes fun of Micah and for some reason Bill gets smacked, Javier tries to close the door because it's fucking cold and Dutch prevents it. He also seems frustrated when he's asked to go back out, but it just went in for the warmth and he's already been kicked out.
Boys, because I thought you liked action. A couple of days on the lam, you lot have all turned yellow. Apart from you, of course.
Shut up, Micah.
I ain't never seen so many long faces. I guess folks miss them. That fell. But when I fall, I don't want no fuss.
When you fall, there'll be a party.
Party? Probably. That funny, huh? Sure. I don't feel like being laughed at by the likes of you two.
Stop it! Now! You fools punching each other when Como Driscoll's needing punching hard. You want to sit around waiting for him to come find us? All of you, we got work to do. Come on.
Are you sure about this, Dutch?
Yes.
Both been through a lot recently. We hardly back on our feet yet.
And the last thing we need is to get bushwhacked by Como Driscoll. Let's go.
I know you hate him, Dutch.
RIP. In Coulter, Javier also shares alcohol with Lenny. At least I think it's alcohol. Might be a fist bump, but you know, I don't think it was. Anyway, it's once again proven Javier cares. He also shared alcohol with Arthur to alleviate his cold back in the mountain.
How you doing? I'm miserable. Been a tough few days.
I know. Here, take a drink of that.
Thanks.
I'm not designed for this snow.
Then there's the fucking train. He falls, Bro looks frustrated as hell, like he's punching the air.
Here we go! We go! Pull me out!
I just realized I'm basically just talking about him, like things that he does in this story in order. This stops in a bit. Just be patient with me, okay? Later, he helps with packing. Uninteresting, to be honest, but it's cute seeing him with a box that's more or less his size. He can't even see.
Wrong with old Dutch. Lenny! Micah, get over here!
Yes, boss.
Had enough of those.
Me with the boy?
Just go.
Come on. Ah, shit.
Okay, let's take a look.
You all right back there? Does everything look all right?
Well, what's going on?
Ah, I broke the goddamn wheel.
All right, let's get it fixed.
You need help?
I reckon we can handle it. All right, Charles, you and me hold the thing up while you try and put the wheel back on, Arthur.
You still strong enough to hold up a wagon?
Shut up.
I'm just saying.
Say less.
There you are, brother. Head in there and follow the track for a bit.
Thanks.
Hey, slow up. I'll jump on. Okay, let's go.
Any trouble getting in here, Javier?
Nope. It went well. This is a good spot.
Excellent. I think this'll work for us, Arthur. For now, anyway.
Later, when the wheel breaks, Javier is the first one to offer aid, and when Arthur and Hosea finally make their way back to the group, he's the one that guides them back. Hosea also asks for his opinion on how things were, and seems satisfied when Javier says it's a good spot. Once in Horseshoe Overlook, I struggled so hard to say that name, he compliments John's scar, which may stem from Javier's insecurities about his own scars, trying to refrain John from getting the same worries about his looks. Javier is very obviously insecure about his scars. He hides them with either his hair or his clothes, and in his old Warner poster, where he has no scars, he has his hair neatly tied back, yet when we see him, he has bangs covering the scar on his eyebrow and cheekbone. He also wears his button down and ties in a way that hides the one on his neck. You could even say that him leaning his head down could not only be to intimidate people, but also to hide the scar on his nose with shadows. I believe he sees them as some sort of failure. He allowed someone to get close enough that they could nearly end his life. That's a failure. He likes controlling what he looks like. It's a way to be able to control what others think of you. But he can't control what his scars look like. They're just there, annoying, in the way. I think he's sometimes a bit of a control freak. He's scared of losing control, of people leaving and him not having a say in it. This comes from the fact I think he has massive guilt over leaving his family and is so afraid someone will do that to him. Boy in general has a lot of self-hatred and self-doubt. Then there's the moment when he calls Arthur a pussy cat.
Exactly, yes, he's a pussy cat. Ain't that so, Arthur?
Awkward. Originally, I assumed this was because he's not great at flirting, which may still be the case, but it might also be because, you know, English isn't his first language and boy is seeing a hot woman. His brain failed him. What do I think now? Well, when John asks about women in Mexico, Javier says that there's good and bad, which may mean he was with multiple ladies back there. He also has a lot of voice lines where he sounds quite flirty, and in Red Dead Online, if you manage to get some sort of mod or some way to see Javier and you have a female character, he will flirt with you. We don't know. I like to think he's the flirty type, but I am very biased. I'll talk about the bar fight and Javier's fighting abilities in a moment, but for now, I'll move on. When talking about the Blackwater money, he never seems all that worried about it. Arthur says not to forget it, and he says, I won't, and that's all. He also has a line where he tells Arthur that that money is all Arthur thinks about. When they're looking for Sean, Arthur says that there's all their money, and Javier responds with, and that's where it'll remain.
Has anyone been in the Blackwater, see how things lie?
Place is crawling with Pinkertons, bounty hunters, and pictures of Dutch and Hosea.
Well, we got a lot of money sitting in that town.
And that's where it's gonna remain for now.
In camp, when you talk to Javier, he also seems not all that worried about the money. In general, Javier seems pretty quiet and relaxed. Until he's not, which is when he blows up and picks fights, even knowing he'll lose. Charles Chapter 6. In the few character interactions he has, he doesn't talk all that much. In missions, he doesn't talk that much either. The person he talks to the most might be John or Bill. Technically also Arthur, but we make him talk to Javier. We see John and Javier talking when John complains about Javier. We see them talking when John gets back and Javier compliments him. When they argue in Chapter 6. And there's probably more that I'm forgetting. This may not seem like much, but the other camp interactions he has are Bill is racist and Javier threatens to slice his throat. Bill is drunk and asks who he's calling a drunkard, and then Bill falls. Javier calls Bill an idiot, and Arthur says he sounded wroth, so Javier is upset Arthur sided with the racist. One of the girls mentions how Jenny would have liked the river, and Javier says Jenny liked to swim, which implies they were close, but we don't know how close. I mean, Javier doesn't say that much. Swanson interrupts Javier's prayers by saying, it's not too late to repent. Bill talks about Javier's scary factor. The few interactions with John, Javier calling out Karen on her drinking. Not a lot, honestly. Most of them show he cares, though, that he listens, truly listens to others, and cares about their well-being. But it's not a lot. In the interaction with Karen, he mentions how she's drinking a lot and asks how she is, to which Karen answers with, you've been killing a lot, and he says he's just looking out for her. Strange, right? That she'd mention he's killing more than usual? Karen doesn't seem to go out all that much, so the fact that she notices that is interesting. Could she be spitting bullshit just to get him off her shoulders? Sure, but thinking Javier is growing more aggressive is far more interesting. In their interaction with Swanson, Javier is quick to come up with a smug/witty response and says that he's sure Priest will take you, Swanson's, confession. Swanson then says that he's doomed, and Javier doesn't answer, just giving Arthur a sort of what the fuck is his problem look before going back to praying. I may be misremembering, but there's a sort of quiet friendship between Charles and Javier. At first, their beds are really close together, but chapter by chapter, they get further apart. By chapter 6, they obviously don't get along as much, but Charles never fights back. We know from when Charles got mad at Micah that he's not above hurting someone in camp, yet he does nothing to Javier. Micah deserved it. By the way, Charles is not aggressive. If you think he is, you play the game with your eyes closed. What I'm saying is that Charles could have very well put Javier in his place, yet he did not. Javier often sits by the ladies, especially Tilly, and sings or plays the guitar by them, but we don't hear them talking much. When other people start singing, he also often picks up the guitar and plays with them. Although he also often plays the guitar by himself, either around an empty campfire or at the outskirts of camp. He seems to enjoy being on his own from time to time. It may help him relax. As far as I remember, he does not play the guitar in chapter 6. In the camp interaction where Bill calls Javier a slur, and Javier ends up putting a knife to his throat, Javier is able to effortlessly handle Bill. And while that shows he could be quite strong, Bill is also drunk and stumbling over his own feet. After that, Javier kinda stabs the fucking table and starts to scratch at it. You can see him doing that a few times. And if you check the other tables, you'll see that they have a few stab/scratch marks. Also bullets, but this has nothing to do with this. What I'm trying to say is that maybe him fucking stabbing, scratching the table is another way to cool off. In chapter 6, Bill asks Javier who he thinks is the rat. They discuss who it is. Bill brings up Marston, but Javier says it doesn't make much sense. Even though Javier does end up saying John is a traitor and is constantly questioning John, they don't really reach an understanding. Earlier in the game, there's a chance that Javier will approach Arthur and ask him to go and help Bill, because Bill has been kidnapped. While on the way there, Javier says that Bill is a problem and that everyone knows it. When he unties Bill, Bill seems to want to go in and touch Javier. Probably a pat on the shoulder or something like that, but Javier puts his hand up to stop it. Again, not a fan of being touched. There's the one in chapter 6, where Javier tells Dutch he's afraid, and Dutch says they'll be okay if they're together in a sickeningly sweet tone. Javier says that maybe they should scatter. Dutch's tone immediately turns defensive, saying if they separate, they'll die one by one alone and afraid. Of course, Dutch knows being alone is a big fear of Javier's. He's using that fear against Javier to keep him in line. Of course, Javier starts doing this to others, questioning their loyalty, their faith, their trust, their strength. To be honest, Javier is not in that many missions, which is upsetting, given he's such an interesting character and seemed to be important in Red Dead 1, but unfortunately a lot of Red Dead characters get underused. There's the fishing one, which shows Javier is really into fishing and is quite skilled at it, and also shows Javier and Arthur get along. In fact, I think this mission and Javier's interactions with John prove that Javier gets more talkative as he gets more comfortable. He tries to teach Arthur how to fish properly, offering advice and tricks on how to do it better. He feels comfortable enough with Arthur that he lets himself be and speak about his interest, and Arthur doesn't judge him, only listens. Also, when Arthur speaks down upon himself and his skill, Javier once again offers aid by giving him better bait. Of course, later on he boosts his own ego by speaking of how great a fisherman he is. The man is a little vain, let's be honest. I think Javier's ego is big. He knows he's good with knife and fishing, so he talks about it and boosts himself. In self-esteem, that's a different story. I don't think he likes himself very much. Javier dresses fancy, always impeccable. It's something the fandom often talks about. But I think he does this not only because, who doesn't want to feel pretty, but also because of him being Mexican. He's trying to oversell himself. Look good, and you'll be treated good. Just hear me out for a second. Him being Mexican is brought up often by outsiders. They call him slurs and put him down, and that always upsets him. Most people would become upset by it, to be honest, but I think him dressing up fancy is him trying to look better so people would treat him better. He sees Dutch, the man he looks up to, dress in such a way that and be treated like an important man, and he wants that for himself too. He's probably heard people talk shit about Mexican workers who can't afford better clothing, and he doesn't want that to happen to him. He wants to be respected, treated as an equal. Back to what I was saying about the fishing mission, Arthur asks Javier what he thinks, and he says being on the run isn't anything new to him. That he'll always be loyal to Dutch, that they see the world the same way. If they have to fight, they'll fight. If they have to run, they'll run. And if they must die, they'll die, but at least they'll die free men. Here, again, he defends Dutch. No fight is won without blood. He knows this. He was a revolutionary. I do want to put a little parenthesis and say that perhaps I'm perceiving Arthur and Javier's relationships as much closer than what they actually are because we play as Arthur, as I mentioned earlier. We choose to talk to him. We choose to go fishing with him. Maybe they're not that close. Anyway, they do seem to be at least buds. Javier doesn't seem as tense and awkward. He's still a little bit, but I think part of this awkwardness comes from English not being his first language, as I've said already so many times. Javier has been in the gang for 5-ish years, and previous to being with them, he knew no English. I'm fucking up so much. He knew no English. It's amazing how good he is. Actually, like 5 years is not a lot. He learns quick. We also have in the Saving Sean mission when Arthur says Javier is being quiet, to which Javier responds with the fact that Sean has babbled so much his head hurts. He also pushes Sean back away slightly when they're bickering, either silently telling Sean to quit or trying to prevent a physical altercation. When Javier is on his way to bring Sean back, and Sean says, "Boy, do I got stories to tell you," Javier sounds so very exhausted. By the way, bro has enough. I don't think Javier or Charles are socially awkward. I think they're just naturally quiet and enjoy it. And again, Javier struggles with the English language. Why did I write this so many times? Oh my god. Anyway, in that same mission, he requests they do things quietly. He doesn't like... Dude, I was gonna fucking keep recording and the fucking plane, dude, what the In that same mission, he requests they do things quietly. He doesn't like loud missions where everything blows up. They sneak up to those bounty hunters, and even though he has a knife, he decides to choke the guy and then punch him. A little personal. Maybe he's not a fan of bounty hunters. Another example is in the side gig where you go with him to rob a house. He also tries to do things quietly. At first, at least, he sets fire to a little building as a distraction, and then, they shoot everyone down. In the boat mission with Trelawney and himself, even after they shot a guy, Javier hopes they can be quiet for as long as they can. Not give themselves away, just blend into the crowd until they're forced to show their true selves. Also, the fact that Javier is comfortable enough with Arthur that they joke about the slur he got called, saying the whole, "They'll give a job to anyone these days." They're so precious to me. There's an interaction with Uncle, where they drink together and Uncle asks Javier what he got, to which Javier answers he robbed a soldier on the road. Interesting, given his past. And then he leans in and asks Uncle what he's been doing. I can imagine him with a shit-eating smirk just staring at Uncle. After that, Uncle moves on and they sing together. It's a sweet moment, even if it shows once again that Javier can be a little bit mean-spirited. I don't mean to say he's a straight-up asshole, but for example, when he's disrespected, or thinks he has been, he quickly goes to threaten folk, or pushing them away, or giving comments about the other person's lack of help in camp. You get me, right? He's quick to raise his voice and doesn't hide his irritation. For example, if he's annoyed when he, quote-unquote, greets folk, he says things such as, "What?" gang member, or "What are you staring at?" or "Don't even start," pretty aggressively. Before I continue with this train of thought, I like to say that it seems like he doesn't want to be perceived or stared at. Maybe that heightens his insecurity. Also, while a lot of other members are kinda rude when Arthur stays for too long, Javier actually asks if Arthur is okay. Also, Javier generally sounds confused and offended if Arthur wears a strange outfit. It's kinda funny. Javier is, of course, no saint. He's a killer and a liar and a thief. He's had a rough life. He's not all sweet and caring. In chapter 6 is when we see him the meanest, insulting people, picking fights, questioning innocent folk, and then getting himself even more frustrated because these people have nothing to say or any way to defend themselves. In the bank robbery, he's the only person apart from Arthur and Charles to stop to look at Lenny. He doesn't stay for much, prioritizing his life and Dutch counting for him over Lenny, who he probably assumed to be dead. Also, in this mission, when they go inside the room, he goes to sit with Bill, another person people theorize he's friends with. What do I think? I mean, maybe. Not besties, I don't think, given Bill is openly racist against him, but they seem to somewhat get along, especially in later chapters. He's the other character Javier often interacts with. John in Red Dead 1 says him and Bill are two crazy men sharing a bed. Javier is also the guy that asks Arthur for help when Bill gets kidnapped. They talk and reassure each other in Chapter 6. In Guarma, Bill is the one that stays and helps Javier. What makes them get along at first is their trust for Dutch, not much else. But maybe later on that grows into more of a friendship. Again, maybe. I don't know. They have an interaction together that is so popular. Is the one when he says, I love it when you talk to me so tough and manly. Then you make me feel like a little Mexican peasant who's gotta be scared of the big American soldier. Then asking why Bill is so mad, as if he didn't start it. Bill deserves it, let's be clear, but Javier definitely started this altercation. When Chapter 4 begins, Javi talks to Arthur, joking that the place is so awful and makes him miss culture. Javier and Arthur, as previously stated, seem to get along well enough. Sure, their conversations are short, but for example in Warma, when Arthur finds the others, Javier is the first person to get to him, asking how he is and offering support. Of course, later, when he gets shot, he tells Arthur, and the rest, to leave him behind. Arthur looks back at him a lot, by the way. And when they finally rescue Javier, he apologizes for being unable to help and begs Arthur to kill those bastards.
Sorry, I can't get up. Kill all those bastards.
When Arthur says he got them for him, Javier chuckles. He's a bit of a people pleaser. He should have let himself be a little selfish. Ask for a little more. He just got tortured, man. But no, he's apologizing. Because he can't help, he can't shoot anyone in his state. This is speculation, but maybe he feels like he will only be loved if he's useful. Javier was tortured in Warma, as we all know. Poked, spat at, insulted, dragged through the mud by a mule by his bad leg, slapped, he gets called a monkey, etc. He has it rough, and yet he does argue back. When he gets told to dance, he says, "Your mother should dance." Even while bleeding out, his wound most likely infected. To a point, he's probably running a fever and in a delirium of bloodlust and pain. He's still sassy and witty. In general, in Warma, he looks a lot at Arthur and Dutch. He's probably seeking reassurance, the person he believes would trust Dutch the most. So when Arthur stops doubting Dutch, it hits him hard. John in Red Dead 1 even says that Dutch's downfall hit Javier the hardest. On the boat back home, when Bill questions Dutch, Javier is looking at the floor. Then Arthur speaks and he looks up to him, only to look back down when he realizes Arthur is not as loyal to Dutch anymore. Bill proves his loyalty moments after. Arthur, he only proves he's straying further from the path. We don't know what he's thinking, but he looks upset, fiddling with his hands, staring at the ground like it owed him money. Lord, he just got tortured both physically and mentally, and now people are arguing all the time. And even still, in that moment, he questions Dutch, only to be put down immediately, of course, but this again proves that he's not just blindly following Dutch. He has his doubts, plenty of them, but at least for now, he'd much rather stay with the group than be alone again. Dutch saved him, again, but this isn't what he thought they were gonna do. Javier joined approximately around when John came back from, being an absent parent. He probably heard a lot about the good things the gang did. Stealing from the rich, giving to the poor, giving money and things to charity. That's what he wants, to help people. He never wants to see such poverty and hurt as he did as a child. This isn't what Dutch promised. But maybe, just maybe, if he stays, things will get better. He just has to ride out the waves, right? Of course, that's not the case. The gang is falling apart. He doesn't know, but maybe Dutch never meant what he said. Maybe he was lying all along. When Molly gets shot, Javier isn't looking at anyone directly. He's more so staring into the distance. He gives a double take and a slight shake of the head, and as they left Molly, he stares at her for a few seconds before giving another shake and looking away. He looks upset, maybe disassociating, given how he looks nearly lost, like he doesn't know what to do. Later, when Strauss is kicked out, he merely watches. He doesn't do anything, again, just watches. He takes a small step, maybe he wants to walk away or toward them or anything, but he doesn't have the strength to. Mentally or psychologically, everything has been so much. Taking a moment to say his wound and warm up would have 100% left sequels on his body and left him disabled. Realistically, he would have died, but since he lived, he should have 100% at least gotten a limp. He was shot either on the side of his upper thigh or on the side of his knee. That's lethal, man. He sounds so tired in the entirety of Chapter 6. His voice, his actions, sure, he picks fights, he insults people, but he sounds so tired. Going back in time, in another mission, the one where you go rob horses with Arthur and John, Javier also barely speaks. He has their interaction with the guy who calls him a slur, and then the guy who says he's funny.
Maybe I like Cubans.
I love this Lee Cooper. Arthur and John keep yapping on and on to these people, but Javier is only there to look scary, I guess. Look pretty. Speaking of Javier looking scary, Bill talks about that in a camp interaction. He says Javier made a guy piss his pants in fear, which Javier seems either proud of his actions or embarrassed by Bill retelling the story. He also says one hothead is enough, which I guess implies he thinks both Sean and Bill are quick to anger. I think. It's funny, Sean says he wants to see that look at least once, and that Bill says it only takes seeing it once to feel the fear. Is Bill's story truthful? Up to debate. But it is true that Javier gives the other NPCs a certain look. His head is slightly tilted down, allowing his hat to give his face shadow and slightly cover his eyes, giving them an intense sort of look. It's a little unnerving, but also he's short. And also he doesn't seem to be that great of a fighter. In the bar fight, yes, we're finally talking about it. You immediately have to help him by holding back a guy so he can punch him, and then he happens to get picked on by a guy twice his size who basically throws him around like a wet rag. The other guy we see him fight with fists is Micah, who he knocks to the floor. That might tell you, wow, Javi is such a skilled fighter, but have you seen how he punches? That's not proper form. Like at all. Like I'm pretty sure he hurt himself more than those people. After the bar fight, he's pretty much completely out. He stays near the floor holding his head, and then when he goes out, he sits. He's probably dizzy from getting beat up. Not to say he's a useless moron. He fights well, he lifts heavy things, etc. That's not what I'm saying. He does well. What I'm trying to say is that he's not the muscle in the way that Arthur or Charles are. He's, you know, more of the knife guy, more of the far away shooting guy. For example, in the boat, when Arthur and him and Trelawney and I don't know who else go to rob a clock or whatever, Javier swiftly knocks out a guy and then aims his gun at the other. Again, in that same mission, he's quick to blast a guy into the next life. He does seem nervous, though, which is understandable. He's unsure how Trelawney is gonna get them out of there. Javier fights with knives and guns, which should be obvious. He's good with knife, which we see in camp with a knife game, and is a trusted gunman. He's also the one that teaches Arthur to poison his knives. He's a knife guy, too short to fight people fist on fists, which isn't bad. To me, it means he's good at finding ways around things. He's not good at fighting with fists. Okay, learn knives, learn guns. That's what I think, at least. Chapter 3 has passed. Javier is proven to be good at surviving in other ways, too, like the way Dutch found him. If you didn't know, both Dutch and Javier were out trying to steal chickens, and they found each other. Previous to this, Javier had basically nothing on him. Why was he there? Because he had to run away from his home. Why did he run away? Because he killed a quote-unquote powerful man for a woman back in Mexico. It's unclear why he had to kill for her, but he says if he stayed in his home country, he and the people he loved would have died. So he ran away with basically nothing but the clothes he was wearing, and while he thought he'd be kicked or killed, instead he was starving, because nobody cared. And yet, he survived. Somehow he found enough food and water to keep going. Javier is a survivor, someone who knows how to handle himself. Even post-gang, when he looks a lot less taken care of, his clothes not as neat and fancy, his hair cut in a weird way, he looks good within reason. He seems fatter, he doesn't sound all that tired. He survived, ran back to Mexico, and lived long enough for John to find him. Even after Blackwater and all that shit happened to him, he lived. I mean, let's remember Warma. The dude gets shot, tortured, gets no doctor for so long. And you know what he does? He apologizes to Arthur for not being able to help. And as soon as he can, he starts doing guard duty again, waking up super early. Dude went through hell and back and kept going. Speaking of hell, his childhood. We do not know that much about it, as it goes with most gang members. It's something that upsets me a lot. Actually, I wish we knew more, but that's Rockstar for you. We know his uncle, someone he seemed to look up to, was some sort of revolutionary as well, although that may be a stretch. He was only seeking for people to live better than they were. He didn't even want that much, only fairness. Was tortured, killed, and fed to the pigs. They made him watch this as well, some way to keep the people afraid and in place. Javier, as he grew up, started to fight against this like his uncle once did. He fought for fairness, but got chased for it, something his mother did not like. This must have been horribly traumatizing for Javier. By the way, I personally headcanon he's afraid of pigs after this. Also that he gets nightmares about what happened after. Anyway, going back to the canon, Javier says he thinks his mother was sort of innocent, I guess. He speaks fondly of her, reminiscing of stories she'd tell when he was younger, but also mentions she did everything to keep him in line. Prepare him for a life of starving servitude, as he puts it. He says she never saw things the way they truly were, perhaps pointing to her being in denial of their situation. Maybe she thought things would get better on their own, or she simply refused to accept that the life they were having was bad. She passed away while he was in the US. He heard much later, we do not know from who, and says he mourns her but is unable to bury her, which distresses him. It's truly painful for him. If you make Arthur talk to Javier after that, he says that Javier doesn't often speak about his mom, and Javier says that, again, it is really painful. Javier also has a sister who got married while he was away, and she moved away, but he doesn't know about her safety, something that also upsets him. I only remember something about his father being an alcoholic who worked as a laborer on a land owned by Agustin Allende's uncle, and him telling Javier to defend his honor, but as far as I'm aware, we know next to nothing about him. Javier not talking much about him might mean the relationship was not very good, which makes sense. I mean, he probably saw some sort of father figure in Dutch and Hosea. He wants to make them proud. He seems to be of some Catholic group and can be seen praying often. When mentioning Sean's death, he looks up to the sky, and when hoping his sister is safe, he makes a cross and looks up as well. He went to church when he was young and says he was forced to give money to it. He seems superstitious too, mentioning how a rainbow with no rain meant their luck had changed and that things would get better. He's hopeful, just to see the good in things. Sean even teases him about it, being Christian, saying he's vain and that he'd go to hell for it, to which Javier once again gives a witty response. So is judging others, my little friend. After that, Sean continues to push, so Javier ends up getting frustrated and threatens Sean by saying, "My father, he always said to me, if someone disrespect you, fillet them with a knife." A comedian, truly. Other characters mention Javier being self-centered or vain in other opportunities, especially Arthur when he's drunk, who even calls him a peacock. Micah also sort of teases Javier about his religion, saying the devil punishes people who stare, and then they get into a physical altercation where Javier knocks him off his feet. What a man. In this interaction, Micah also says that Javier is all feminine again, insulting Javier for his looks and how he takes care of himself. By those times, having basic hygiene was deemed feminine. Yikes. To be fair, Javier's clothing does have a sort of feminine look, but I'll talk about his outfits later. He gets visibly frustrated when talking about his past and the failure of the rebellion, pacing around, possibly to calm down or to soothe himself, and spitting at the dirt when he talks about someone he dislikes. He also says the older he gets, the more he finds that everywhere is the same. People are shit everywhere. They steal, they hurt, no matter what they are, they just suck. Javier wishes he could go back to Mexico, which he eventually does, saying that he'll be shot on sight if he's seen. He clearly misses his homeland. The food, the people, the heat. He says he's not made for the weather, such as colder. Javier talks a lot about hope. He hopes he can go back, hope things get better, hope people are safe. Chapter 5. His image. Actually, wait, I fucked up. It's chapter 4. What? What the fuck? I guess at some point I just forgot how to count. This is chapter 4. His image. Outfits. Whatever. Now, I know I talked about his appearance briefly before, talking about Javier being insecure about it, but I want to go a little more in depth. This is probably one of the shortest chapters, though, so, you know. We're nearing the end, don't worry about it. Since I'm hoping this will be a video, you, future me, should add photos of what the fuck I'm talking about. I can only explain something so much, man. Parentheses, future me, recording this and working on the video. For some fucking reason, the images I put in the Google Doc to remind myself of what the fuck I was talking about is gone. So I don't know, like, me editing the video, yeah, I'm so sorry. I don't know what the fuck I was talking about. I'm just recording the audio. Good luck, bro. Good fucking luck. First, I'm gonna talk about this one. He's wearing a blue jacket, his big poncho, a green scarf, and around his lower leg he has some sort of pelt wrapped around it. He's wearing black gloves, and of course he's wearing his usual bowler hat, which, as previously stated, he wears tilted forward and like down to sort of hide his eyes and look more intimidating. The poncho is white with a red and black pattern that sort of resembles the sun. Hold my hand, please. It kind of looks like the sun. See my vision, please. It looks thick, like it's good for the weather. The poncho was one of the typical clothes of many South American and Mexican cultures. Although investigators have concluded that its origins could be Mexico, Ecuador, or Peru, it is not known where the first poncho was made. They were created to keep warmth, though. I will not go into poncho lore, okay? Because it's not that important and controversial. Apparently, I just wanted to mention all that. Javier has another poncho, much shorter and yellow with a black and red pattern like the other one. I'm not sure it's a poncho, actually. I lied. It seems to actually be some sort of long cloth wrapped around his shoulders and neck like a pashmina, or I think it's called that, maybe a big scarf. I don't know, something like that. It's clear to see from the back, actually, that it's not a poncho. He, like many other gang members, seem to often reuse outfits. In fact, this is not in the script, but it is largely theorized that the clothes that they give Kieran were actually other gang members. They might have been Mac and Davies or Jenny's or someone else's who just doesn't use it anymore, so they gave it to Kieran. Anyway, back to the script. It seems he mostly uses the same pair of pants, bootcut jeans reaching his heel and partly covering the backside of his shoes. They're quite fancy, I want to add. His shoes, they have like a golden accent in the front and back. His clothes look neat, well taken care of, even though they do have stains and marks from use. Put beside other gang members' clothes, they are like practically perfect. It's not that he doesn't work, it's that he's careful with his clothes. In fact, he's careful with everything that he owns. Boaz, his horse, is perfectly taken care of. His saddle is beautiful. He's like very obviously very well taken care of. His hair is luscious. His beard is well trimmed. In general, he really takes care of how he looks. I already talked about this though, so like I'm not gonna go over all that again. This is, again, a little bit of theorizing, but maybe back in Mexico when he was a child, since he was really poor, he really learned to take care of his clothes and, you know, use them to their last breath of air. I mean, have you looked at his socks? They've been worn out. Like, you can see his little toes, his little chompers, and he still uses them. Javier has a floral theme in all he wears. His sombrero, which has a flower-like shape on its side, and also like little squiggly little thingies around. His saddle, as previously stated, which has flowers and petals all over. His gun and knife too. He also has this sharp squiggly line sort of pattern in multiple places. As I just said, bro sees a piece of clothing with flowers or that pattern and he's like, yep, that's for me. In fact, all of Javier's clothes have this sort of feminine thing. I don't know how else to explain it. He has high-waisted pants and vests, and his vest cuts off like above his hip. He's very careful with his image. If you look at his clothing beside like more like clothing for more feminine people, they're similar, okay? And he also has multiple outfits, but he has this belt to like snatch his waist, I guess, which was kind of popular at the time, but also like adds to his sort of feminine thing. This outfit is similar to the one he uses in Red Dead 1, although it's more complicated and layered. Like, he put actual effort into it, unlike his Red Dead 1 self. Now, I may be going crazy. I'm an hour into recording. Actually, I started at like 9 p.m. and it's 2 a.m. now, and I've been writing the script for like a week. You have no idea how much effort I put into this fucking video. Anyway, I may be going crazy, but isn't this outfit similar to the one Mexican revolutionaries used? The sombrero, bandolier, the jacket. It makes sense. Javier was a revolutionary. But it's interesting that he wears that in both Red Dead 2 and Red Dead 1. No matter his mental state, his belief still somewhat sticks to him. I will say that maybe like him looking like a revolutionary was done on purpose, but I feel like I'm losing my mind. You will see later how much I lost my fucking mind, okay? When I start talking about the songs and their meaning, you will see how far Sark has lost it. Javier also often uses accessories, of course, ties and scarves, but also a few golden dangly bits. I don't know what they're called, okay? But he doesn't have things such as rings like Dutch. Having that would make working much harder. I say that because I think it's important to Dutch's character design that he's wearing things that make it harder for him to work. Like, it shows very obviously that Dutch does not lift a finger. I want to say that even in Warma, where he's having such a bad time, Javier still looks good. Like, hurt, his shit broken, muddy, he still looks good. I am biased, okay? He's my Pookie, he's my baby girl, if you haven't been able to tell from this long ass video. He's my baby. But he looks so good. Moving on to Javier's face, it's quite shapy, actually. His whole body is shapy, lots of triangles and circles. Let him cook. Okay. His face is very round. It's very shapy. Like, it's long and round, and he has a double chin, which people often forget to draw. But I digress. That fat, like that double chin, often comes from genetics, weight, aging, and lifestyle, but it could be other things. He has sharp eyebrows, the right one being broken up by a cut scar. Maybe a cut, it looks like a cut to me. He also has a scar on his nose's bridge and on his left cheekbone. The two may have come from the same attack, given you can sort of see the path of the weapon, whatever it was. He also has what might be a little cut on his right eye, below it, and a little mark over his left eyebrow. He also, obviously, has another scar on his neck. Someone probably tried to finish him off like that. You can kind of make a map with all these scars, actually. Again, so shapy, so pretty. Okay, I've held it for so long, but I love him, okay? Like, I'll read the script. Whatever, you don't need to hear me be all gay. He hides all these scars, as previously mentioned, with either his hair or pieces of clothing. I'm not even gonna try to explain his mustache, okay? You can see it. And if you can't, I'm so sorry. It's like a mustache, like cut up in half, and he has like a patch under his bottom lip. That's the best I can do. His hair is pretty long in Red Dead 2, nearly reaching his shoulders, but he mostly has it tied up in a ponytail. You can actually see, like, above his ears that he has some strands that are not long enough to, like, go to his ponytail, though. By Red Dead 1, he has cut his hair, but it doesn't seem very neatly cut, more like he cut it off with a knife or without much care. In case you didn't notice while playing the game, or you know nothing about the game, characters' honor, which is like how good or bad they are, is usually shown with color. Color and shape have meaning in character design. Red usually means a character is evil or angry, and blue often means a character is good or sad. Black is, again, impurity, someone who's bad. White is the opposite, clean, pure, good. In Red Dead 2, this stands. Characters such as Dutch have a lot of red. It's hidden at first, but that makes sense for the character. He's hiding his bad things, per se. You can also see this in Arthur. If you have high honor on the boat mission, he wears a blue tie. And if you have low honor, he wears a red one. We can see this in Javier too. In Coulter, he uses a lot of red and white, but also blue and green. It's mixed. He's not all the way good, nor all the way bad. The red covers the blue, but the red is mixed with white. You know what I mean? It's not cut and clear what he is. Now you might say, but Micah uses white. Well, I think it's a way to kind of disguise himself. Make him look like a good guy. While he's not. In general, Javier uses the mix of good and bad quite a lot. Blue jacket, but black pants. Blue jacket, but a red tie. It shows conflict. He's not all the way good, nor all the way bad. He loves John Arthur, but he loves Dutch too. Chapter 5. Other things I didn't know where else to put, which have a whole lot of speculation. Wow, this title is long. Also, this is chapter 5 for real this time. There's not much we know about Javier. Let's be honest, this has been a whole lot of speculation and me saying things that you see in the game. But while trying to keep this smooth sailing, I kind of forgot some random facts I wanted to add here. Since this has become a sort of a yap about Javier's character for a long while, and that's it. Does this even count as a character analysis? I feel like I'm just stating the obvious, bro. Anyway, here we go, random things. And the music thing that I said I was going to talk about, it's time! First and most obviously, Javier is Mexican, and speaks and sings in Spanish in camp. I adore listening to Javier sing, and maybe I'm reading too much into it, but what if, in a way, what he sings reflects his story? We often feel found in song and enjoy listening to songs that have things we've gone through. Heartache, loneliness, family issues. You get me, right? So what if? Just hear me out for a second, alright? El Borrachito, a song about an alcoholic whose life got ruined by a girl that reflects themes of emotional turmoil and self-medication through alcohol. The influence that love and unrequited feelings can have on an individual. Of course, we see Javier drinking often, either alone or with others, and he's quite shameless when he's drunk. Javier says he had to escape Mexico because of a girl. It's all caused by the passion of a woman. La Calandria, a song about a bird that got stuck in a cage that seeks aid, promising to go with the other bird if it frees her. It reflects themes of longing, confinement, and the desire for freedom. So what if, and again, hear me out, that was sort of the situation with this girl? What if she was trapped in some way because of this important military guy and Javier helped her by killing him? What if she promised they'd be together once she was set free? El Coyotito, a song about... I'm not sure. Listen, I'm not that smart. I think this is about some guy who feels lost in life, so he screws around and gets in trouble. But I'm not sure. This one's gonna be longer because I don't see a connection between Javier and this song as clearly. It also took a lot of effort for me to figure out what the fuck this could be about. You'll see. So the song opens with the me leaving a town, being very upset about it with a trompillo. A trompillo is a flower commonly used to heal different things such as anxiety or nausea, possibly symbolizing resilience or self-medication in the face of pain. Then the me says he's like the coyotes, often a symbol of cunning and adaptability, but also being a bit reckless, and shows that while he can stir up trouble, he can also leave situations without lingering. Then it says something about pines and it falling, and I don't know, maybe it could be like something shattering or falling apart. The little birdies living there might maybe mean that it's a life of innocent or a stable home, because, you know, little birdies, they're innocent, they're little babies, and, you know, it's their nest, it's their home. Then the me says someone who has been absent came back and they're there ready to face them, whatever that means. Like, maybe it's Javier is like, maybe it's about John, you know, like later in his life, and he's ready to face John. I don't know. Okay. Blah blah blah. The me reflects on the futility of complex struggles, talking about how there's no need for labyrinth or complex things when everything eventually ends, signaling a more fatalistic outlook. A jacalito is a sort of small shelter, and the sword being left there and abandoned might mean a loss of purpose or direction, which, again, kind of fits with Javier. A nopalito is a type of cactus, which the me says has dried up. Maybe the dissolution of a relationship. They also talk about being jealous on an empty stomach. Don't mind my chickens. Which... Ayuda, ¿qué mierda dice este güey? Listen, I asked other people for their opinion, and still... I agree, no idea. One person said if you're hungry, you're desperate, so you don't care about other things as long as you live. Another said that maybe they're jealous of their ex, starved of attention. Another person said that maybe it means they are jealous of someone who gives them nothing, so they're starving, or that it empathizes the negative emotional states that poison their relationships, with jealousy now being a thing of the past. Maybe the jealousy is happening when they're feeling unprepared or deprived, or hinting at an emotional or mental state where they are not in the best condition. My mom, yes, I asked my mom, fuck you, said that since ayunar could also mean waking up early, maybe it's basically saying like, it's so early and you're already annoying me with your jealousy. She also mentioned how cactuses are supposed to thrive in the desert, yet the cactus is dead. So maybe their relationship has been going on for a long time, and that's why it dried up. Also, the cactus being dried up might mean that they haven't had relations, let's say, in a while, and that's why things aren't dried up. I don't know, really, I have no fucking clue. I've tried, I don't know what the fuck this song means. Moving on, the me says he's in jail, or in some sort of confinement, but wishes their lover to not find out about it. The me might be protecting his loved one from the hushed reality of their situation. So, what? But some things fit leaving home and being upset, drinking and having fun to forget, a sense of loss of self, relationship issues, protecting ones you love from something else, etc. But overall, this song has me confused to no fucking end. I tried, okay? If you have any idea, please tell me. Next song, finally, Ángel de Amor. A song about a guy who's heartbroken and feeling like they were never loved or appreciated, and ending up being replaced by someone else. The me talks about an angel, an idealized version of their lover, who they cannot fully comprehend. They're confused, unsure of how to manage the situation. Later, it talks about hiding a painful noise in a tomb, perhaps a desire to bury the past and its hurtful memories to find peace. Thinking of this from a Javi side, this could mean that maybe he didn't kill to save his love, but because she replaced him with this important man and he was so distraught, he killed him. This is a great time to repeat that this is pure speculation and I'm pulling things out of my fucking ass. Next, La Mentira. Basically a guy who doesn't believe in love or care anymore. Everything is a lie. Everyone sucks. Everyone hurts me. It's a deep disillusionment. I don't know how to say that word. And cynicism, that word, about love, friendship, and human emotions. Again, this could just be Javier being upset about this woman betraying him and feeling like everyone betrays and hurts him. It kinda checks out, with him being afraid of people leaving and stuff. And that's all the songs! Woo! Okay, well, there's Cielito Lindo, but honestly, I don't give a fuck. Like, I talk about it, but guys, I've yapped so much already. If you want me to talk more in depth about these questions, I mean these songs, if you want me to talk more about these songs, then tell me and I will. But this has been enough. I only really talked a lot about El Coyotito, I think, because that's the one that I struggled with a lot. I didn't even go in depth like with all of them. If you want me, I will, I don't know, comment and subscribe and like, or whatever the hell I'm supposed to say as a content creator. I don't know. Oh, also, this is a good time to say, would you want me to do other character analysis for other characters from Red Dead 2? Which is kind of what I'm into right now. I don't know, you tell me, I'm here to serve you. Or whatever. Another thing I wanted to mention was the trauma Javier potentially has over his uncle's death. It wouldn't be strange to imagine he hates pigs and cannot stand to look at them. Even he watched the animals eat someone he loved. Fun fact, there's a line where he says, "Look, a boar! We used to roast those back at home." What a silly goober. Some of his lines are a little suggestive too. Can't complain, but you know, he gets a little freaky. Also, there's a voice line where he says, "I'm getting too relaxed here." Overworking much? He also has a line where he says, "You always have to go too far," and other sort of voice lines, which tells me that Arthur is quite often rude to him. This isn't an Arthur analysis though, so I'm gonna leave that there. Another proof that he gets along with the girls is, you got it right, a voice line. He says, "How do you deal with these idiots?" to Mary Beth. It's sweet, I think. I wish we got more info on how close him and the other girls really were. He also questions Dutch in those camp voice lines where, you know, like characters pass by each other. He asks if Dutch is gonna do anything about the mess going on, for example. I'm pulling this out of the wiki, hold on. At some point, Javier and Arthur attempted to rob a stagecoach after receiving tips from a crooked lawman. However, they decided to let it go when they found out it was full of women and children. That stagecoach was robbed by O'Driscolls the very next day, who murdered all its passengers. Javier not only despises the O'Driscolls because he's following Dutch, but because he's faced his own issues with the gang and their crooked ways. Javier shows clear distaste for Kieran Duffy, an ex-O'Driscoll, yet he mentioned he was growing fond of the man after he passes away. While Kieran was alive, Javier treated him poorly, throwing dirt on him and saying things such as "once an O'Driscoll, always an O'Driscoll," and saying all Kieran has proved is how quickly he'll betray others. Of course, a man as loyal as Javier would find Kieran to be nearly offended. He clearly finds amusement in annoying Kieran. By the way, he smiles when Kieran stumbles over his word and shows frustration. They're a little cute to me, they're a little cute. So, sure, he treated the man poorly, but he seems upset by what happened nonetheless. Perhaps off-screen, they became closer. Perhaps they talk about their shared enjoyment of fishing. Wherever the case may be, Javier forgave Kieran for being an O'Driscoll, but it took him a while. He prioritized his loyalty and saw Kieran as someone who lacked that. Maybe he realized Kieran wasn't some disloyal asshole, but someone who had been dealt a bad set of cards his whole life. Again, this kind of proves to me that Javier is someone outside of Dutch. Again, I'm going off script. Like, he's not just blindly following Dutch. He has his own thoughts. Like, yeah, he doesn't like the O'Driscolls because they were bad, but they're really not that bad to him. He's more hating on the O'Driscolls because of Dutch, like pretty much every gang member who hates the O'Driscolls because Dutch hates the O'Driscolls. Am I making sense? Okay. And Javier and other gang members kind of like feeling bad about Kieran and everything shows that they're not just blindly following Dutch. They have their own thoughts, like their own opinions and everything. And that's why I really like when people make Kieran and Javier friends, because it's like it's a very unlikely friendship, right? Like the guy who is supposedly such a unloyal stank guy and the guy who dresses like one of the best in gang and is one of the most loyal people in the game. I don't know, I like their dynamic. In theory, of course, because they don't really talk that much. Kieran has like maybe fucking 3 camp interactions and Javier doesn't have that many. Like, I'm cooked, bro, I'm cooked. Fuck. Okay, going back to script. In a camp interaction, Javier says he met a Brazilian in a bar, but that he didn't understand a word he said. Kinda funny. Honestly, Spanish and Portuguese aren't that different, if you didn't know. So the fact that he didn't understand anything, either he was not a Brazilian, Javier was not paying attention, or they were both really drunk. People asking a few times in Red Dead 2 if Javier wants to go back to Mexico, and him explaining the situation a few times, other times kinda dismissing it, tells me that he's only recently felt comfortable enough to talk about these things. Let's remember Javier has only been in the gang for like 4 years, which is not a lot. Also, puta madre. Also, Javier has previously mentioned, is really skilled with the guitar. He knows how to do a grito and sing songs with ease, which tells me he's been doing it for a while. Maybe he learned back in Mexico, maybe someone taught him, maybe even his uncle. We don't know much about what Javier did post Red Dead 2. The only clue we have is that in a newspaper it says he's hiding in the mountains, so likely from 1899 to at least 1907 he has been laying low, and then at some point after that he makes up with the Mexican government and comes under their protection when he becomes a hitman. Well, okay, this is unrelated. Most of these things are unrelated, okay? This is just random facts. I don't want to say Javier is a pushover, but rather that he likes keeping people around him happy. He says what others want to hear. When Dutch questions him, he says what Dutch wants to hear. When John wants to drink, he pours more alcohol, even if he knows John is already too drunk. And when John goes on his little speech about how Abigail is an annoyance and only whiskey is wonderful, Javier's like, yeah, man, you're so right. Like, in general, even though Javier doesn't seem all that pleased to listen to John whine on and on about Abigail, he doesn't say anything. Doesn't tell John to shut up, doesn't give an opinion. He only says what John wants to hear. Or nothing at all. Also, like, his little giggle after that interaction, wow, he's so silly. Also, in chapter 6, when he tells Arthur, won't even sit next to me no more. Boy, stand up. In chapter 6, he also says that Arthur is breaking Dutch's heart. So Dutch or Micah talks about Arthur behind his back, which is unsurprising. Or maybe Javier is projecting a little bit. He also argues with John about him being disloyal, how everyone is sticking together but him. He's also generally upset, raising his voice, pointing at John. John tries to settle down, but as the asshole he is, he says, these people ain't your family, which obviously makes Javier even more upset. It's unfair. It's horribly unfair to tell Javier that these people aren't his family. Like, what are you saying? Never try to help another grieving person, John, please. Anyway, he grows more upset and calls John arrogant, throws his brush at the floor and tells John to get his head straight. In chapter 6, there's a chance when you talk to Javier, Arthur says Javier knows what's happening but simply won't admit it. Arthur can also say that Javier isn't who he thought he was. The friendship is breaking. Also, Trelawney calling Javier cute in the Jean saving mission makes me giggle. Another random thing, in Javier's Red Dead 1 voice lines, oh my god, my Spanish came out, Red Dead, my bad. Another random thing, in Javier's Red Dead 1 voice lines, he says, you was always a traitor, you still hit like a child, so this is the man you become, huh? And they would have killed you if it wasn't for me, brother, to John, and I find it so sad. But also, what? Is he being truthful? Did Dutch really plan to get John killed? Is Javier projecting when he calls Arthur and John traitors? Like, he's saying they're traitors because they planned to kill John. Do you know what I mean? There's also a dialogue where he says, just kill me, which kind of reinforces my thoughts that he'd rather die by John's hands than by the law. Then he says, or he said, if we die, we'll die free men, also supports my thoughts. Another thing, we're told that Javier is under Allende's protection in Mexico. So he got a pardon because he's working with the fucking dictator? Boy, when I catch you, I'ma whoop your ass. Okay, last one. The thing John might be talking about when he says Abigail always thought Javier was a creep might be in chapter 6, when Javier is going around on one of those rants about trust and questioning people's loyalty. Abigail says she has a son and she wants to live, and Javier is like, man, we live together, damn all of you. I don't know. Also, Javier saying Arthur only wants the money. Boy, but I find you when I mean, maybe it's that. I don't fucking know. I guess in chapter 6, Javier is just so desperate for people to stick with the gang, him, that he gets agitated and starts spitting crap. He's just constantly overthinking shit, spinning things in his head until Dutch, or he, is right. Also, Javier 100% feels like he owes Dutch, since Dutch saved him, like a few times by now. Bro always needs to give help and help others, make himself useful. Okay, I swear this is the last one. I think. In Red Dead 1, Javier mentions wife and children. Children. That's plural. So he somehow kept up with John and how his life was going. He even says he could have gone after John but decided not to. Ugh, when I catch you. Okay. Lord, it's... When I wrote this, apparently it was 5 a.m. That was day 1. Then I was on day 2 and I was like, it's 5 a.m. again. And then I was like, it's day 3, it's 5 a.m. again. You don't understand. I stood up to make this damn video so many days. Right now, I don't even know. It is 3:30 a.m. And I've recorded an hour and a half of audio so far. I'm delusional. Forgive me. I want Javier and Arthur to be friends. I want Javier and Kieran to be friends. I want Javier and John to be friends. I need them all to get along. I'm losing my fucking mind. Anyway, apparently I thought maybe I would think of something tomorrow. Nope. We're moving on to the last chapter. Chapter 6. BPD. Finally, the time has come. Whoa, okay. I want to warn before we get into this that I'll talk about self-harm, trauma, and others, like, very sensitive topics that you may not want to hear about. I beg that you make sure that you're in a good mental place before getting into this, and if you feel you cannot go forth, that's okay. Take care of yourself. You don't have to finish this. This is just a dumb character analysis that went too far, okay? Stay safe. If this is the last of it, then have a great day. Eat your meals, drink your water, stay safe. I love you. Now, if you're gonna stay, what is BPD? Borderline personality disorder, or BPD, is a personality/mood disorder. To my understanding, it means someone is on the borderline of neurosis and psychosis, a normal, emotionally functioning state in a severely distorted sense of reality. I'll do my best to explain more, but you should always do your own research. I am not a doctor, okay? This is all things that I read, videos that I watched. I'm not a doctor, okay? First of all, I like to say that BPD can be caused by environment, but it can also be caused by genetics. So it doesn't have to be that Javier went through something in his childhood, but it could also be, you know what I mean? Basically, people with this disorder are paranoid and believe that they will be left behind either because they think they're unlovable, complicated, or something else. They have emotional instability and may become upset quicker than others. They have disturbed patterns of thinking or perception, impulsive behavior, intense but unstable relationships with others, etc. Sounds like Javier already, right? Especially in chapter 6, when he's constantly questioning people on their loyalty, wondering if they're gonna leave, breaking into arguments, etc. They also often have a temperament, a heightened sense of emotional experience, high and extreme amounts of emotional distress throughout the course of the day. Under intense and really extreme emotional distress, some may enter a state of psychosis. It can include hallucinations, paranoia, and delusions. Some will simply black out when something called the secondary psychopath comes in and takes control. Secondary psychopath, as I googled it, is a type of psychopathy that is characterized by impulsive antisocial behavior and is thought to be caused by environmental factors. It acts as a sort of protection for them, doing things they might not usually do. Again, sounds like Javier, right? Some people question why the hell Javier suddenly grows aggressive in chapter 6, and this could explain why. He's under a lot of stress, things have been really bad for him, he's just out of it, you know? Personality disorders are a class of mental health conditions characterized by enduring maladaptive patterns or behavior, cognition, and inner experience exhibited across many contexts and deviating from those accepted by culture. Their natural temperament, combined with conditions that they were raised under or trauma that they were exposed to, created a personality that generally doesn't do well with others, despite them only wanting to do well with others. Now, just because this is a personality disorder and it has to do with their perception of relationships and the world around them and a diminished / non-existent sense of self, it does not mean that that diagnosis needs to determine their behavior in long term. BPD does not define them. They can learn to manage it, but there are things that they simply cannot control. Again, parentheses, this is from what I've learned. Some people with BPD struggle inwardly. The anger, sadness, and everything stays inside. Their inner thoughts are their biggest bully, and they have to fight who they want to be versus the person that BPD wants them to be daily. That rhymed. That inner critic is very emotional rather than rational. It reaches the wildest conclusions that your average person would not. Again, kinda checks out with Javi, right? Not exactly, but for example, in the interaction with Arthur, when Javier asks what's going on, Arthur gives an answer, and immediately Javier starts going on about how Arthur is undermining everyone and how he's gonna betray and leave them. Arthur is tired. Arthur is sick. He's not betraying everyone, yet Javier assumes he will. It's partly because of Micah and Dutch, of course, but Javier is actively expressing this anger. I pulled this example from a TikToker, so bless them. So let's say, for example, my partner came from work quiet. Therefore, they must be tired from work. Your partner has come home quiet before, under circumstances where there is no conflict, and they told you that they were tired from work. So you assume that that's exactly what's happening now, because there's no conflict between the two of you, and they simply came home quiet. For someone with BPD, it goes more like this. There's been a shift in energy, and they're gonna go into this fight or flight. Turn on the red alerts, find the problem. It feels urgent. Their body is saying that they're in danger. Their brains go, my partner came home quiet. Here we go. They're gonna internally question themselves. Are they mad? Are they cheating on me? Did they fall in love? What have I done? Etc. That's splitting, by the way, a defense mechanism that involves thinking in extremes, such as seeing someone as all good or all bad. After all these inner questions, they start to perform. This when they act extra loving, trying to figure out what's going on. It's apparently pretty short, like if they don't get the answer they're looking for real quick, it's devastating. Performing often doesn't help. Of course, the issue has nothing to do with them, but they think they're responsible to manage this partner because at some point in their lives, maybe they were responsible to manage someone else's feelings in some regard, whether that be by being someone's punch bag, someone's anchor, etc. We see this in Javi a few times, saying what Dutch and John want to hear, walking around and working, even if he's most likely in a lot of pain after he got shot and tortured, when he asks Karen how she is and then says, I'm just looking out for you, etc. He feels like he has to manage people's emotions, make sure they're okay. After that doesn't fix it, they start to ask. These stages don't gotta be back to back, I don't think. Again, I'm no doctor, I think from what I remember in the video, it could be like in minutes or it could take hours, you know? So finally, they ask what's up. And their significant other responds with, yeah, I'm just tired. And the person with BPD once again thinks of the worst. They won't let me in. They don't want to tell me what happened. This dysregulates them. Emotional dysregulation is a core feature of BPD. It's characterized by an inability to manage emotions in a way that allows someone to function effectively. So they start thinking. They're unhappy and this needs to be fixed. They think they're in danger, remember, so they ask again, are you sure everything's okay? And this time, your SO doesn't respond so casually because they're tired. They don't mean to be rude, but they say, yeah, I'm fine. Stop asking, like, why are you asking again? This response might have just the slightest bit of tone to it because they're slightly annoyed. And remember, people with BPD are really sensitive. They perceive tone where it doesn't even exist. So that slight annoyance confirms their fear. They don't like them anymore. They hate them. They've met someone better, etc. This is what their brain and their body is telling them. Of course, there's a piece of them that understand that it's not true and that they're behaving wildly, but they can't stop it. You can learn to manage BPD, but like most mental issues, you cannot stop it. I want to make it clear that this is something that they cannot control. Do not hate people with BPD. They're human just like you and me. They just have other issues. Once that confirmation happens, they spiral. Paranoia goes into delusion. They truly believe that what they think is true. This is horrible, a massive problem. There's 3 ways this can really go. Rage, mourn, or both. It can be internal or external, but it's gonna be painful either way. And let's remember that this is just about a partner coming home tired. Imagine any other daily interaction. Most people in the world have something called assumptive reasoning, which means making a conclusion based on limited information. We understand the world to be a certain way, so we can make therefore statements. We're assuming that something is one way because there's evidence that that's what it is. That doesn't mean that that is definitive, but generally assumptive reasoning gets us in a lot of places. People with BPD may not be as good with that when it comes to other people and relationships because they were not taught how the world works properly. Many have a physical developmental brain issue from brain trauma or sustained trauma in their youth. Something got messed up along the way, or the world was just very cruel to them, so they learned to be extremely careful. This is off script, but in the moment this kinda reminds me of, like, you know, Javier went through a lot when he was really young, seeing his dad be an alcoholic, his uncle get killed, all the issues in Mexico, like he was extremely poor. That's a lot of trauma on a very young kid. People with BPD also have impulsive behaviors, difficulty controlling impulses of self-harm or engaging in reckless activities. I'll talk about self-harm later, but first I want to talk about reckless activities. In chapter 6, Javier ends friendships in quite bad ways. He spits on Charles, which was severely reckless. Given if Charles had reciprocated and they had fought, there's little to no chance Javier would have won. He cusses at John and other gang members. He's just actively being unstable and having big mood swings. Another thing with when he tells, this is off script, when he tells Arthur, like, you won't even sit next to me no more. And if Arthur does sit down, Javier is like, oh, I'm flattered, or something like that, but he doesn't, you know, like, he calms down. Folk with BPD have mood swings that can include periods of being very happy, very irritable, very anxious, feeling shame, and Javier is 100% more irritable. I mean, John only asks something and Javier calls him all sorts of things. They can also have inappropriate strong anger issues, such as losing your temper often, being sarcastic or bitter, or physically fighting. Again, it fits. Same with periods of stress-related paranoia and a loss of contact with reality. something else people with BPD often struggle with is suicidal ideation. A lot of thoughts of doom and despair. Do we know Javier has this? No. We don't know what he's thinking, but I mean, being a cowboy on the run, committing crimes, that's not safe, and he knows it. I'm mentioning this more because I've read that one. Sure, Javier runs and causes at John, but he doesn't try to fight it all that much. He doesn't kill John, he doesn't do that much to save himself. Maybe he believes he deserves it. With this train of thought, I want to bring up something I've talked about in posts before, both in Tumblr and Twitter. But I think Javier plays the knife game as a way of self-harm. This is very personal, okay? I'm gonna get kind of personal for a second here, so bear with me. People with BPD often have self-destructive thoughts. But it's just a game, right? So it's fine if he stabs himself a few times. It gives him adrenaline, having the knife so close to his hands, going as fast as he can. When Javier scratches the table, it makes me think of myself. Why? Well, this is, again, very personal, but when I was trying to stop hurting myself, whenever I got the urges to, I'd cut or scratch things with my cutter or scissors. I also used to play the knife game as a way to hide it, and I have a few scars on my hands from it. My point is that I see what I used to do in Javier, that same mentality, and I don't think it's a stretch to say that a man as hurt as him would use self-harm as a way to punish himself, relieve stress, etc. And after that, I think that's all. I'm sure there's things I missed. Camp interactions, relationships with characters, things that I'm wrong, but I'm pretty happy with this overall. This video is already reaching nearly 2 hours, so it's a lot. Now, do I really think Javier has BPD? It's a fun headcanon, I think, that makes things about his character make sense. But it's definitely not perfect. I'm sure there's other personality disorders that may fit better, in fact. I just did all this because I thought it was fun, and that's all. I'm not a doctor. Please take everything I said with a grain of salt and make up your own ideas. As I said, I quoted people directly on their Javier thoughts, on their BPD thoughts. So to everyone to everyone who I quoted, or everyone who indirectly helped, thank you. As a direct shout out, Nico on Twitter, they're Niquax or something like that on Twitter, for helping a bit, because we talked about Javier, and other Javier Moots who kind of help with this. Shout out to Sin, just because they make me happy. Fucking Alessandro got me through. Shout out to a lot of my friends, Robin, Luca, Sai, who also really helped me get through this, and be like, yeah, what you're doing is so cool, man. I could never do that, and it really did help me. God, making this was painful, and I'm just recording. I may even have to record things again later, and I need to download this audio, and then I need to make the fucking video. This is painful. If I ever do another character analysis, it's not gonna be anytime soon. I guess that's all. Thank you for reading or watching this. In your case, if you're listening to this, probably watching or listening. Oh yeah, I guess I should say, I'm posting this as a video, but I'm also posting the Google Doc below, which has everything written, in case you fucking hated my voice. That's there. I don't know. Thank you. Have a great day or night, or whatever the fuck. Remember to eat your meals and drink your water. Take care. Don't mind my fucking chickens. They were annoying me the whole fucking video. Can you hear them? Oh, now they go quiet. Whatever. Okay, thank you. Hugs and kisses. Take care, my lovelies. Bye-bye.